Right, YouTube, welcome back to another video from Wtf Rc Cars. So, we got a package from Flysky. Thanks a lot, all the guys at Flysky. This is the official EU version of the Noble Pro. And this is maybe seen as an upgrade or replacement for the MB4 that has been an absolute cracking transmitter. I mean, we use it in crawlers, race cars, everything. We were so impressed with them, we bought another two. So we have 3 MB4s and now we have a Noble Pro. So let's have a look what we get in this one. So this is how they will turn up retail. Now, the first thing you will notice, let's see if there's one on the box, but basically you'll notice you've got this little tiny sticker and it does say scratch off. You've got a code on there that you can put in the Flysky's website, and I will leave a link in the description below, and that lets you check and make sure that the product you've got is genuine. So something to look out for. So if we open the box, we've got some Flysky stickers. Always nice to have stickers. You get a larger wheel with the foam. You get the Noble Pro transmitter. Let's line that up. So we get a Noble Pro transmitter, and yeah, I'm quite surprised at that. Okay then, Flysky, so they've actually engraved it with my name, so thanks a lot. We have a customised MB Pro. I'll get you a close-up of that later. In the box with it, you also get, we've got the FGR 4B. So it's a small, I think they've got a waterproof rating. So that's a 4-channel, but it does telemetry, and it also has the external voltage sensor, so receiver. We get the Wi-Fi wireless charging base, 4,300 milliamp hour. We also get the wireless charger, and then in this box we get some instructions that I'm sure every single one of you is going to read back to front, or front to back. We get an FGR 8B receiver that does 8-channel telemetry and DVB. So we've also got that. You get a set of keys for this quite nice carry case. So pop that to one side. You also get a lanyard, a little Flysky lanyard. We get 2 buttons to replace these in case you want them as fully variable. You get a set of Allen keys. We get another trigger, slight different geometry trigger. You get this little wheelbase with 2 adjusters, and that you can fit inside there, and then the 2 adjuster screws, you can limit the amount of travel then. So that might come in handy. You get the back plate that replaces this if you don't want the guard on there. We get another profile trigger. You get a set of springs. So we've got both hard and soft springs, and they're so you can adjust the amount of sort of pressure you get back on both the trigger and the steering wheel. You get a plastic trigger in case you don't like the feel of metal for whatever reason. You also get an alternative grip. You get an extension for the phone mount that is compatible with the GoPro style mounts. So that might come in handy if you want to swap the mount out for a camera style mount. And you get the USB cable to charge it. So let's get you a close-up look at this and get it all unpackaged so we can see really in detail what all this means and what we've got. Right, so first off we have the Noble Pro. And it is a really nice looking transmitter. I do like the colour they've done it in. It's something a bit different, and I do like that it comes with this this nice phone mount. Would have been nice if we could angle this, but it's not something that is terribly difficult to do. You can get plenty of swivel mounts what fit on this type of adapter, so that'll let you adapt it to however you want to use it. Nice and easy slide mount, and you do have a really solidly made screw on back of it to lock it into place, so you're not going to be losing your phone. What else do we have for it? So the wheel and the throttle, you get a hell of a lot of options with these. So first off, let's have a look at this one. So you get a bunch of these, all slightly different. That one has S marked on it. Let's see if we can see. So the one fitted to the controller as standard as M. So that's a medium and that's a small. Let's see if we can tell any difference with them. So we have the standard size plastic one. And that, again, that's about 1 millimeter narrower, but it does have a slightly different profile on the outside of it. So we've got a third trigger that's got L on it, so I'm guessing this one is just going to be wider, but let's have a look just for completeness. So it does look like the large one goes slightly further down. So it's going to travel ever so slightly further. It looks like it's exactly the same width. So you've got a small, medium and large trigger. It does look like there's more missing from the inside of it. So it'll put slightly more room in that gap. So in your trigger gap, the large one will give you the largest room, smallest. So it does look like it's the actual meat on the inside that makes them small, medium and large. Hard to tell really on width wise. It does feel like those two are slightly narrower than that one. But nice to have a whole bunch of options. Now, if we move this around, it is fully adjustable. So you do have a screw on the inside where you can adjust that gap as well. And you can adjust the tension on it with the small screw in the bottom there. So, moving on, let's have a look what else we get in the box, because there's quite a lot with this one. So, these are for the variable pots at the back. So you get the two little dials and you just pull these off, and then you can, rather than a 3-position toggle, you can have a fully variable dial on both sides. So we also get the wheel that's a different size. So I'll just show you a comparison of that. It's a little bit bigger. And then we get the 2 sets of springs. So they're tiny little springs, and basically you use them to adjust the tension. It is difficult to see, but basically you've got a set of springs what sit inside there. And I believe you can also change the springs in the steering wheel if you like. So you've got set of hard and set of soft springs. We've then got the wireless charge power base, and also the matching wireless charger. Let's see what output is on that. So input's 5 volt 2 amp, output is 5 volt 1 amp. Transmitted power 5 watt max, Charging efficiency is 70%. And transmission distance is 8mm. So it should be quite easy to get that lined up and charge it. We do have this adapter. Basically, you've got a tiny little stop that goes in the end once you slide it on. If I can stop it jumping off. And then you just pop your screw through, tighten that up, and then you have got a mount that you can use instead of the mobile phone mount. So you can swap that out and then mount a camera to it, which is quite nice. I'm sure quite a lot of GoPro users will find that useful. Now we also get a set of Allen keys, and the small one is for adjusting the tiny little hex heads. So for the tension, for the span of the trigger, and then the one in the side there is for replacing the trigger. You've also got another warranty scratch thing on the bottom. So you scratch that lower silver part off, that'll reveal the number. The hex in the bottom there is where you adjust the tension for the wheel. And then I believe the bigger Allen key is for swapping this wheel out, and you can also use the smaller one for taking off the phone mount. So that fits for all them. Little Flysky wrist strap, if you like. So you should be able to put that around your wrist and then clip it to the Noble Pro, and then you're quite safe if you drop your Noble or let go. It's not going to go crash into the ground. Because they are a really nice controller, and they're not the sort of price where you want to be throwing them at the floor and destroying them. We also get included, which is like a very slight different texture, a bit like a carbon weave. So it's a different grip for the back, and these are quite easy to get off. You just basically pick at them and then just pull them off, and you push them on. You can see where the little clips are. When you're putting them back on and taking them off, just remember you've got this little sort of locating tag in the top. I usually find it easier to take that off first and put it on first, just to line it up. Now, I'm not sure if this is one that you have to swap the wheel, or if this is just the one that comes that allows it to basically adjust. But you've got the two little grub screws, and basically what this does, it sits on the back of the wheel, and then you can adjust your end stop. So basically you put the wheel on, and then you've got the two little hex screws that go up through there, little grub screws, and then you access them by those two little holes on the bottom of the steering wheel. And what that does, as you screw those in, it restricts the amount of travel left and right, because you might not want to use the full travel, especially if you're using something really quick like a pan car or something along those lines. But it's nice that that comes as an option. We also have a right angled USB charge cable. You have the 8-channel with external voltage. And they also do telemetry. You can reassign one of the extra ports or one of the 8 channels to do telemetry, I believe, on that one. Yeah. And then we also get a load of crinkling as I'm taking all these out of packet. So you also get the tiny little FGR 4B, and these are quite useful because they've got quite long antennas on them. And this one can also do the external LiPo monitoring and telemetry. And they are quite nice receivers, these, because they're I think they're IPX4. I'm sure the voltage on them, yeah, I just checked on this, it's 3.5 to 9 volt on both of them. So you've got quite a big range that you can run with these. So it's nice if you want to run higher powered servos, up to sort of 8.4 volt servos nowadays. You ain't got to worry about your receiver not being able to cope. We have this little thing. Now, I'll show you what these are for. So, basically, if you don't want this arrangement on the back, you can undo these 2 screws. That's 2 out. And you can either take off the phone mount entirely, so you can take that off altogether, and you can see where Flysky's engraved it. They've engraved my name. So you can either have the Noble Pro in that sort of setup, which if you're not going to use the phone or the camera, it's going to make it lighter weight for you, or you can refit it so you do have the extension in the bottom where you can attach the Mini Z compatible transmitter. Let's see if I can get that on. So you just put it on, slide it forward, that locks. So the grip that comes on it is the small grip. So press the button at bottom, you'll get a charge status of what is in the power base. It'll also start charging the Pro. You don't have to have the power base on to use the Pro, same as the MB4. It's got a 18650 battery internal, so you can use it with or without the power base. Normal operation is just press the button and power it on.
Welcome to Noble.
So let's see if I can get this in some kind of position where you can get a really nice shot of the screen. Right, so
welcome to Noble.
Press the button on the back, long press, that brings your Noble Pro on, and let's have a look what we've got set as stock. So we've got system menu where you can set your units of measurement, so metric, imperial. We've got backlight adjustment, which stock setting is 50% brightness, so that's 100. You can set your backlight timeout. I usually run mine as always on. Then sound settings, so we can change volume. You can also have it so it triggers power on off, alarm sounds, system sound. You can turn all them on and off. Vibration settings. So it's got a little vibration motor just for alarms, or so you know that you've actually pressed something. And again, you can change that between the system settings or just alarms, or both. You've got your quick access screens, so they're the swipe left, right, up and down, so you can set them to whatever you like. Auto power off, I like to get rid of that, but make sure you don't leave your MB4 on and drain the battery completely and kill it. One thing I would do, the Noble Pro, one thing that I would do out the box, stick calibration. So basically, move the steering and your throttle and brake over the full travel. Then you know it's all calibrated and properly. If we go down to the about, So that's the version of software that's currently on this Noble Pro. So it's the EU1 standard firmware, not the FCC high powered one. Hardware revision 1.1, and this is from November 2021. RF library is version 3. So moving on, let's have a look what else we got. So we can tell it whether we want the light on the back. So we can have it in a whole bunch of different colours, and you can also have it, which I tend to run, the battery level indicator. And then again, you can control brightness. So let's see. Yeah, it does go pretty bright, that LED. You're not going to miss it. And then you can turn it all the way down. So any of these settings that you think I'm not sure what you've changed, or you want to go back to stock, press that and just press yes, and it'll set it back to what it were at factory. Main screen lock, so you can decide when you press and hold the little lock icon whether it'll lock the screen, settings, or all of the above. Your standby timer, again, same as your auto power off settings, you can set them to whatever you like. And you have got the factory reset in case you completely screw your Noble Pro up and you want to set it all back to stock. So, sensors. This is where you'll get all the sensors. You need it paired to a receiver to see most of them. Choose sensor is just same as on the MB4. Speed and distance, that's for the when you're using an RPM sensor. You can set up your rollout of the vehicle, and you basically, it's quite cool, you get 2 actual meters in there as well. Alright, so let's have a look what else we've got. You have your reversing for all your different channels. You've got endpoint adjustment for all your channels. We've got sub trim, again, for all channels. And if you're wondering why it's only showing 8 here, that is where you go into the model and you change it to number definition, but we'll get to that in a sec. Steering dual rates, so we've got all that available. Throttle and exponential dual rate. We've got a timer that you can assign to the main screen as well. So, and you can set it to up timer, down timer, or lap time, and it will shout out at intervals, which you can set. Then we've got an assignment screen where we can set a whole manner of different options, or you can have it on this view if you find it easier. I think a lot of people, certainly to start with, will prefer to set it up on this screen because you can see which buttons you're actually assigning. And if we just pop in, you can, the functionality on it is absolutely crazy. You can pretty much set any option to be any button and whatever else you want it to do. Your auxiliary channels, that allows you to name them. So you can change it to exactly what you've got it set to, and then you can set it to one of the function buttons. You can go through that menu. Particularly helpful if, say, you're on a rock crawler and you've got rock lights, light bar, front diff, rear diff, 2-speed. You can actually name all your channels so you know what on earth they actually mean, rather than them just being channel 1 to 8 or 1 to 18. Your model memory is where you would go to sign up, and before you bind it, you set your channels. So you can see 2 channel really fast, 4, 6, 8, 10 and 12, depending on what receiver you're setting it up to. Your radio frequency setup, you want it on 2-way for telemetry, or you've also got your Mini Z Evo and your Mini Z, or you can have it on 1-way. Supposedly less latency on 1-way than 2-way, which does make sense, but I've never really had a controller go out of range, so it's not really an issue. And it's also where you'd go to update the RF firmware. Then you can customize your menus, so you can have whatever you want in the menu for that particular model. So if, say, you're not using the boat setting or the SVC or beginner mode, help, you can turn all these on and off. Just get less clutter on the actual menu screens then for that particular model. You can copy model memory, you can import and export. If you go to that, it'll tell you to download the assistant. Let's see if there's anything else on there. I don't think there is. You can reset the model from there, and you can also name your model whatever you want. We've got the RX set menu, which is where you'd go to bind. You can change the protocol, so this is where you'd go in to set PWM, iBus, or whatever that particular receiver needs. So that comes in quite useful, especially when you're setting up telemetry. You've got your failsafe, where you can set everything. When the signal cuts out, that'll tell it exactly what to do. And you can set them to, I think it's free hold. So free will just do whatever, it'll just go to 0. Fixed value, so if, say, on a nitro or an IC car, you could set it to put on the brake and it'd stop. Don't set brake on an electric car, because depending on your ESC setting, it'll brake and then bugger off backwards. Or you can have hold, where it'll just keep the position it's on. And you can set them for all channels, or you can set all to fixed value. Servo frequency, every single one is set independently, or you can set all channels. This is also where you'll set, so around 380 will work for just about anything. If you do get an issue with your servos kind of twitching like that and not centering, it's probably better to drop it down. You can set it to custom and just keep bringing it down until your servo behaves itself. It's usually the slower, cheaper servos that do it, but it could cause your servo to heat up because it won't hold position. It'll constantly twitch. But this is also where you can set an extremely high one for the SR or SFR, so 833 or 1000 Hz polling time. Then there is also the option to sync with RF. You have the iBus setup, but you need to have the receiver connected for that. It'll tell you need to set the iBus interface first. And this is where you can configure all your PWM settings. So this one is for the RSSI out. You can turn it on, off. You can also set the channel that it's doing that on. RX battery will tell it whether to use an external sensor or whether it's using the power feed to the receiver to be displayed where the RX icon is. And you can also, so basically the low and high is your top and bottom end point of the icon, and then alarm is the one where it'll trigger and tell you that it's flat. Range test comes in quite useful. So as it says there, you pull switch 1 to reduce the power. So I'm not sure which is configured as switch 1. Is it one of them? Yeah. So basically you can walk away from the RC and then you can press the trigger or switch 1 and it'll reduce power and you can see where it cuts off. So it's quite good for range testing. Don't drive your RC while you're doing that. Especially if you ain't got your failsafe set up. Low signal alarm, self-explanatory. When the signal gets low, it will go off, and you can also update the receiver through that one. So you've got a whole bunch of receivers to choose from, and then just whack update. And then channel speed, which is available on all channels. Then you've got your mixer settings, which you've got a crazy amount of these. So there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do. Set which channel mixes with which, and that's a whole different video all on its own. Tracked vehicles, so you can set your mix for the tracked vehicles. So that's where you'd pull the throttle, and then your steering can control the bias, or which motor's getting sort of which amount of power to control the steering. So we've got drive mix. So this is where you'd set your, so if it's a twin motor vehicle, especially on a crawler, might be quite interesting to actually do one of these. So you could power the front and rear wheels separate, and you can set up the bias as to underdrive and overdrive would be one use for this. There is other uses for it. Brake mixing, and basically on an IC or a nitro car, or I suppose you could do it on a 20SC car, but you can basically set your brake bias to be 70-30 or however you'd want it, and then you can set up a whole load of mixers, all just completely custom however you want. This one is where you'd set the throttle midpoint, so you can set the servo to be wherever you want. Depends how you want to drive your RC. The throttle neutral and dead zones. If your receiver you're using in the car is particularly twitchy and you want a bit more space on the throttle, so when you move your finger a little bit it's not affecting the vehicle, that's where you'd increase it and set it up on there. Throttle curve, pretty same as the MB4, but again, a whole nother video. Idle up is one that you'd use, say, on a nitro or an IC car. So you can have it, so if you have to hold the throttle on slightly when you start it, you can hit the idle up, assign it to a button, and then the controller's holding the throttle on ever so slightly for you. That's what we used to use as that for cruise control on the MB4. Engine cut, again, this you can assign it to a button, where on a nitro or an IC car you can have it so the throttle will pull back and it'll cut the engine. Cruise control, so this is a new setting for the Noble Pro. You can assign it to a button, and then you can basically go from 0 to 100 on cruise, and it will, you can hold the throttle, then press the button you've assigned to it, and it will lock that position, and then use another dial to increase or reduce speed. Boat setting, basically you can set it up so all the throttle travel is for go, because if you don't have reverse, I think that's roughly what that setting's for. Display, again, for all your throttle, everything, or you can have every different channel displayed. SVC gyro, this you need to have a receiver set up that's got this set on, but it's basically where you can calibrate everything and set all your gain and everything up. And then you have a help. So basically scan that QR code, and should work even on a screen on YouTube with your phone, but if you scan that you can download the full manual. Official website, another QR code, Facebook QR code, YouTube QR code, and a Twitter QR code. Right, so that is the first look at the Noble Pro. And if there's anything at all that you've seen that you want to know more about, more in depth, I will be doing, same as I've done on the MB4, I'll be doing a whole bunch of videos, tutorials on how to set this up, how to use it. Your little Wi-Fi charge base, just plug it into USB and sit it on it and off you go. But yeah, that's the first look at the Flysky Noble Pro and all the stuff you get with it, and a whole lot of these packets. But thanks again for watching WTF Rc Cars. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell, share to friends and family or anybody you think might find it useful. and I'll catch you guys again in the next one.
Where are you?